I embarked on a tour prior to Christmas of last year, and I really wanted to get down to, in a simple sense, myself, the crowd and the music. And in the club world, for a long time now, we're all about going bigger, bigger, bigger in terms of numbers and production. And I felt, you know what, let me roll up my sleeves and dig deep and go and play small rooms. So I was playing in rooms from anything from 500 people to 1,000. And the idea was to connect with the crowd and get back to my roots and play trance. From that, people started coming up and saying, can you play some of the classics? I'm like, no, 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 this isn't a classic tour. This is nothing to do with old music. This is new cutting edge music, but to share with an intimate crowd. Anyway, people asking me to play some of these old classics, came the idea of taking these classics, or classics that became classics to me, classics to you, and redo them in a 2014 production sound that could fit into a current set, not only for me but for other DJs, and also educate the current generation of clubbers and the new generation who don't know these songs from 15 years ago. And it's gone down really well. Back in the day, I came across that as a B-side. And it was really melodic, but as a rock band, it was obviously a rock band's interpretation. Simple Minds, a great rock band from back in the day. I found I could play it, but it was very difficult to play because it was live drums and it moves in terms of the tempos and mixing in and out. There was a lot going on. But what I did do was I parked that record, and I thought, if ever I get a chance to do something with that record, I will. And that was when I thought, you know what, this could work. Now's the time to do it as a cover. For me, I think, and I've seen it before, we saw it in Europe, in the UK, we're now in a place where we're finally accepted as a sound, as a family that were very much into underground music. We're now become much more of a commercial sound. For instance, when I started my residency in 2009 in Las Vegas, there was no clubs playing electronic music. It was mashups and hip hop. And strangely enough, I had a lot of slack from my community because they were like, Vegas is where it's old school, it's where the old acts go and perform. And I always saw it in a different sense. Vegas, as we all knew it, was where you go to party. It was that cheesy saying, what happens there stays there. And for me, I felt Vegas was the right spot. So now when I go back to Vegas, and I'm there next week, to see all the billboards and to see how every club doing it, I think is a positive thing. You know, why shouldn't America have a home for electronic music? Very similar to what we've had in Europe for many years with Ibiza. And the current generation, the older generation, even the next generation may not be able to afford to go to Ibiza to experience this. So you have it now in your own backyard where you have the pool parties, you've got great restaurants. There's a trend similar to in Ibiza. You'll go hang out at the beaches, or you go to the pool parties, you go to dinner, then you go to the club. Well, you have it now in America. In terms of collaboration, I'm always first and foremost respectful to the artist and to what they do. So on my new artist album, Pop Killer, I've tried to look at the next generation of who I think are great talent. ZZ Ward, LP, Alan Stone, Miguel you've got on the wall. I did a couple of cuts with him prior to him blowing up. And people who I've always respected and been lucky enough to work with, for instance, One Republic, where I did a bunch of stuff with Ryan Tedder on my last album, and I have one cut with him on the new album, CeeLo. So my artist albums are all about new singers, great singers, and great collaborations. In terms of the next people I'd like to work with, as long as it's an interesting collaboration and I think something could come out of it, and there's a challenge maybe for both of us, then for sure. Look, I'd love to collaborate with Eminem. I think taking Eminem out of his genre and bringing him into the electronic world is what I do with all these people that I collaborate with. It would be really interesting for me and him to see if we could do something, that we could come up with a track that could work really well. Dre's the same. I've been a big fan of theirs for many years. So I would, you know, I'd like to work with Run DMC from back in the day and put a real pumping track together at 130 BPM and throw those guys on it. Things like that really interest me rather than the obvious norm. There's some great young EDM producers out there. I mean, Avicii's one of them. He's doing a tremendous job, and I like that he's pushing the envelope. I like it that he's doing things that sit uncomfortably in the electronic world, and that's what, you know, from my point of view, I've always tried to do by collaborating with people from different genres. There's a few. Denver, one of them. There's one of the best clubs in America is in Denver. Beta, as you Americans would say. Beta. So that's a great club, and that's the guys behind that were the guys who were behind Beatport. Chicago's one of my favourite places. As I say, I was there Friday, and it's always a great crowd, and they're always up for it. Detroit, obviously, because of their background with electronic music. There's a few places. I mean, Florida. Tallahassee's a strange one because the students there, they just go for it. Tallahassee, a lot of students there. I used to do big parties there, actually.